Hello, everybody. Welcome to the official start, the official day one of our spring detox week. This week, we're really focused on that detox protocol, making sure that we're eliminating those foods that can really clog up our liver and cause sugar cravings, and just resetting our body and giving ourselves a little bit of that spring cleaning. So, today I wanted to share with you guys some additional tips that you can follow and implement this week to really see even better results and make your experience so much easier. So if you guys are just tuning in, if you didn't know about it, we have the 7-day detox going on starting today. It's not too late to join. So if you guys want to join, you can absolutely still join today and start tomorrow. But yeah, the details for the 7-day detox that we're following is linked down description below. Okay, so what we are doing, the main goals that we have with this spring detox, first of all, is like kind of the obvious one, is to take a break from sugar. And sugar can be very sneaky. It can be in so many of our foods. I think all of us are like super aware of that at this point. And sugar is so addictive. It has addictive qualities that are on par with a lot of other addictive substances, like substances that we know can be abusive. So taking an occasional break can just be really great for also resetting our taste buds and our cravings and making it so that we don't have to crave as much sugar, or our sugar tolerance won't be as high. So we can get that satisfaction from like a sweet flavor that is maybe like a fruit versus like a Snickers bar. And then also time for liver detox. So a nice little like side benefit when we do greatly reduce our sugar intake, especially from those refined processed sugars, is that it allows our liver to actually process and take time to dedicate the resources to process those built up toxins, because some sugars like fructose are going to be toxins for our body that our liver has to break down. And when we have too much, we aren't able to break it down right when it's coming through. So our liver will store it as fat. I talked more about this in last week's live stream. So if you guys want to check that out, you can check out last week's live stream, or you can check out the 7-day detox, which really goes into detail with that. So we're going to take some time for allowing our liver to really focus on detox, which it's doing all the time, but we need to give it a little bit of a break too, of not having to process so much every single second. And as a result, improved energy and metabolic flexibility, both of which can help with feeling better, obviously, but also with helping to achieve a fat loss goal if that is what you're looking for. Okay. And what we're doing to achieve all those goals is, of course, a 7-day detox protocol. So a lot of it will be the sugar elimination, but there's so much more to it than that. Again, check out the 7-day detox for more of the details, but also some of these additional tips that we're going to go over today to just really help maximize your results even further. All right. So let's dive into the tips for the 7-day detox. First of all, don't just cut sugar. This is kind of like along the same vein of like, don't just cut calories when you're looking to achieve a weight loss goal. This is like the simplistic overview that people might have of when you're looking at like a sugar detox, just cutting out sugar. But if you just do this, you will have more sugar cravings and you will not enjoy the process. You will not feel great. You will feel hangry. You will want to give up, and you probably will give up because sugar is so addictive. So instead, what we want to do is, not only do we need to cut out those added sugars, as well as some of those foods that have a similar impact, which I do have the full food list in the 7-day detox program, but we also want to increase the foods that help to shut off sugar cravings. That way, we aren't just like fighting an uphill battle. We can actually feel good and satisfied and not like really, really excessively hungry and a hangry mess. So obviously, increasing those foods that boost satiety, that is going to be protein, fat, and fiber. We talk about that so much on my channel. Protein and fat and fiber all have different ways of increasing our satiety hormones, like peptide YY, CCK, and GLP-1, which GLP-1 you guys are probably familiar with because it's the one that like different medications like Ozempic are targeting. But we can naturally increase that and naturally shut off hunger and naturally reduce our sugar cravings by just eating those foods. So we also at the same time, so obviously like we want to increase those foods that help us to not crave sugar, but we at the same time need to remove the foods that contain a lot of the addictive sugar in the first place. So removing the addictive foods that lead to more cravings, that is very typically going to be mostly added sugars, but there's other foods like refined and processed carbohydrates. So things like tortilla chips, or like even white rice, really high glycemic load foods that can cause a big blood sugar crash, because the blood sugar crash is what causes a lot of those cravings to come up from like a physiological standpoint, at least. And I do have, like I mentioned, the detox promoting and inhibiting food list in the 7-day detox program. It's what we're following during the 7-day detox week. So if you guys want to check it out, link down description below. But don't just cut sugar. You need to add these other factors in to make sure that you're actually going to be successful and not just give up. Okay. Number 2 is to get your steps in. So I like first became, I guess, like well known on YouTube because my walking video. And it's because walking is such a great tool for so many different aspects of our health and wellness goals, but also from a blood sugar perspective. So I just mentioned how blood sugar and stable blood sugar levels can help to prevent more sugar cravings. So when we actually go for a walk, especially after a meal and after every time we eat, it helps to stabilize our blood sugar levels so that we don't get as big of a spike and crash. What's happening is that your muscles are literally absorbing those excess sugars or excess carbohydrates that are broken down into sugar from your blood supply so that you don't have to get that big spike and crash. And instead, it's just going straight into your muscles. So that really helps stabilize your blood sugar so you won't get further cravings, or at least one tool to help prevent further cravings. And then just additional benefits, it helps improve digestion. It is an amazing tool at this. In fact, this is something that, like, whenever I have a client and they have digestive health issues, one big thing, in addition to obviously what they're eating, that we look at is their movement. Because if you're just sitting all day, that can cause your GI tract to really, really slow down, make it so that it's going to ferment in the food that's within your GI tract, cause bloating and cause gas and possibly even constipation too. So walking, especially if you can spread it out throughout the day, just little walks about like 5 or 10 minutes every couple hours even, and hopefully maybe like one bigger walk either first in the morning or at lunch, in the evening, whatever works best for you, but just something to get you moving can help to improve digestion, stabilize blood sugar level, and even help with overall gut health. It also, for this reason, helps with phase 3 liver detox. So we talked about the importance of liver detox in the 7-day detox program. There's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 of liver detox. It works in these different phases. The last phase is where we're really actually getting rid of the toxins that our liver processed. So our liver dumps those toxins that it just processed into our GI tract so that it can then release it and get it out via bowel movement and get rid of it, so that we no longer have it in our body. That's one main way that we detox. But if you're constipated, if you aren't able to have a bowel movement, then the toxins can actually be reabsorbed. And obviously that is not something we want. We don't want it to go back into the body. We want to get it out. So getting your steps in has a lot of benefits from a blood sugar, from a reducing our cravings perspective, from a fat loss perspective, and also from a liver detox perspective. Okay, number 3, don't keep treats in the house. This is like a very practical, very, very practical tip, but it's something that I more often than not see people do, where they do still have those treats in their house. And sometimes it is because there's other family members who aren't ready to have those removed, or aren't going to be doing the 7-day detox with you. And if that's the case, if you can't totally eliminate those foods from the house, one thing that I have found is at least setting some type of compromise with your family members for those 7 days, where you put those treats, whatever they might be, especially if there's something that you know that you always come back to, up in an inconvenient spot for you to get to. Something that like is a very high up cupboard or deep in the freezer, something where you're not just going to see it every time you open the fridge or freezer or open the pantry in order to cook something. So it's not right in front of your face. So ideally we want to not have it in the house at all. That is like the gold standard. But if you can't do that, at least making it so it's not going to be right front and center so that you're seeing it every time you go to cook a meal. Now, the reason why this is so important is because, as I mentioned earlier, sugar can be just as addictive as other types of substances like alcohol or even certain drugs and medications that people can abuse. So we want to make sure that we're cognizant of that, and not making it even harder for yourself to bypass those sugars when you're trying to eliminate them, especially during those 7 days. I found after the first like 3 days, even if they are in front of your face, it's so much easier to say no to them. You just don't crave it as much. And in fact, sometimes it cannot sound as good because it sounds too sweet. But especially for those first 3 days, but preferably for the first 7 days, try to make sure those treats are not in the house, whatever those treats might be. Okay, Next up, number 4, aim for fiber at every meal. So this is something I talk about a lot in the 7-day detox. It's a key component in the 7-day detox program because it does help so much with that phase 3 of liver detox. Remember the elimination phase, getting rid of those toxins your liver just processed, that portion of the liver detox. So high fiber foods, they help to physically grab on to the toxins that your body has released into your GI tract and help to move it through your GI tract. So again, it can exit as a bowel movement. If you don't have enough fiber, that's where it can still, those toxins can still get reabsorbed. So we want to make sure we're eating really high fiber rich foods. And some of the highest fiber foods are probably ones that you wouldn't think of as high fiber. So like raspberries are very high in fiber. They're about the same amount of fiber as they are to carbohydrates. I believe it's 7 grams of fiber to 7 grams of fruit sugar within 1 cup of raspberries. So it's completely even. Um, Cacao nibs. Cacao nibs is the raw form of chocolate. I love cacao nibs so much. You can see I put it on top of this smoothie, or it's on the side of me. This smoothie right here. It's a great topping to like smoothies or smoothie bowls, to yogurt bowls, cottage cheese bowls. I love it. Or even just like blended into a smoothie. They are so high in fiber, like surprisingly. Another one that's like crazy high in fiber are artichoke hearts, or just artichoke in general. One artichoke has about 11 to 12 grams of fiber. So like a lot. Just to put it into perspective, it's typically recommended that you get about 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day. And artichoke hearts have about 12. So it's roughly half of what you need just from one food, which is nuts. Lentils are a great source. They're also generally a lower to medium glycemic load legume too. Chia seeds are also very, very high in fiber. Although if you are sensitive to lectins, you could use edible basil seeds instead. Edible basil seeds are very similar to chia seeds. I've done a video on them in the past. If you want to check it out on my YouTube channel, I think if you just type like Autumn Bates basil seeds onto YouTube, it should pop up. But I compare the two and show the difference on why you might want one over the other. But if you are sensitive to lectins, and that is one that you could have instead, the edible basil seeds. And they actually have double the amount of fiber to chia seeds. So all really, really great high fiber foods that are easy to add to a lot of different meals. And we use all of these different ingredients within the 7-day detox program recipes. So if you're following the program recipes, you don't have to think about it. But if you want to add these more specifically into your day-to-day as well, you absolutely can too. The ginger cacao superfood smoothie, which is the one that's pictured right here, has a lot of these ingredients in there too. But don't forget to hydrate. So even though we are focusing on getting fiber, if you are a big, big, big mistake that I see people do, they will increase their fiber, but they don't increase the amount of water they're having. And especially if you're somebody that doesn't already consume very much water, this can be very problematic because fiber needs that liquid in order to help it actually pass through the GI tract. If it doesn't have that liquid, then that also can just lead to constipation. So again, when it comes to liver detox, we want the GI tract moving smoothly. We want to make sure that we're actually able to have consistent bowel movements. Otherwise, you are not going to be able to release those toxins efficiently the way that your liver would like you to. So hydration along with the fiber, those two combined really help to maximize your gut health from that perspective. Okay. And the next up, eat tasty PFF meals. So protein, fat, and fiber meals. This is another practical, like don't ignore this one because it is practical and very important. I have found when people, and this is just like for me meeting with thousands of people all across the world with all different type of dietary eating patterns and preferences and all of that, when people stick to what they might consider like a more boring type of meal, which is what somebody might do if they think they're trying to eat healthier, something that is like less flavorful, doesn't have like yummy sauces or flavors or whatever, they might feel good, even if they feel good. But they eventually get so sick and tired of what they're eating that they, again, give up and go back to those more hyper palatable, very sweet foods. That is not what we want. We want to make sure that you are actually eating foods that you love, foods that you actually look forward to eating, foods in a way where when you're doing the 7-day detox, you don't actually even feel like you're doing anything challenging. Like this shouldn't feel super, super difficult. It should feel like you're just eating some different foods that taste really great. That is the goal. So really use this time, especially the next 7 days, to try different meals, Try something maybe you wouldn't have had in the past. Don't just have like chicken and vegetables, like have something that actually tastes great. There's a lot of really delicious recipes in the 7-day detox program. Most of the recipes within all of my programs are detox approved. There's some that do contain like some honey or maple syrup. So of course you'd have to eliminate that if you were going to use those. And then of course my blog has a lot, and my YouTube channel, a lot of recipes. Like this is so important. I can't stress this enough, because when you actually enjoy what you're doing and enjoy what you're eating, those are the people that are successful and maintain beyond the 7 days. So having a ton of variety, foods that taste good, food that have flavor. If you aren't like somebody who loves cooking, you don't have to love cooking in order to eat really tasty foods. The recipes that I share, I always make sure are not something that is going to be very overcomplicated or complex. I love to cook, but I still like to be like a lazy cook where I'm not spending like hours and hours in the kitchen. I also am a very busy business owner, mom, and all of those things. So having something that's quick and easy is also very important, equally as important as something that actually tastes good. So don't be afraid to try something new. Try the recipes, try something that actually looks tasty to you, or maybe that looks interesting and you haven't tried before, so that you can just expose yourself to new flavors and not get bored and sick and tired of what you're eating. Again, that way it can be an actual lifestyle change, something that you love, and not just something that you do for 7 days, see great results, and then go back to what you're eating before, especially if it didn't support your goals in the first place or make you feel great in the first place with what you're eating before. Okay, guys. So those are the 5 tips. I'm going to go through and answer some questions today. So if you have any questions, you can put 4 question marks before and after your question. But if you guys want to join the challenge, like I mentioned in the beginning, it is not too late. Or even if you're watching this like weeks later, you can still do the 7-day detox at any time. We have so many of the community members who will just like do it whenever they feel like they need it. Especially if you just went on like a vacation, or it's the holidays, or maybe it was like your birthday weekend and you had a lot of foods that just don't support your goals. You don't feel great. You feel sluggish. You maybe have more sugar or alcohol or refined and processed foods that left you feeling sluggish. This is a really great opportunity to take that time to essentially spring clean, right? Yeah, that sounds so weird coming out of my mouth for some reason. Your body, and just focus on the tools that will make you feel great and reset your taste buds. So if you guys want to check out the details for the 7-day detox program, I will have it linked, and it is linked down in the description below. And I think it's popped up as like a book product right here somewhere. But otherwise, I'm going to answer some questions. All right, Madeline. Every time I get on keto, I end up breaking due to sugar cravings. How do I fix this? Thanks. Yeah, I personally don't follow a keto diet. You don't necessarily have to. I don't know your like health situation. Some people do need to go very low carb, like super, super low carb in order to, especially if you have like certain health conditions, or if you're very insulin resistant. But I actually haven't found that keto is necessary. And for some people, it could be counterproductive for this exact reason. I have, if you are interested in more something that like is tailored to different types of goals, you can check out my body recomp program. This is what I followed during my postpartum 20-pound weight loss journey. So if you go to my shop, autumnellnutrition.shop, so autumn, ELLE, nutrition.shop, it's the body recomp program. That is such an amazing resource. Highly recommend. But a couple of things I see that can happen with people when they're on keto. First of all, when you're craving sugar, does it last beyond 3 days? Because if it does last beyond 3 days, then you're probably not eating enough of the protein, fat, and fiber to actually stabilize blood sugar level. That could be a big factor. If you don't go beyond 3 days, if you just have those sugar cravings and you give into them within a couple of days, then that is where it's more of like, could just be a true sugar addiction. And it does require using some of these tools, like what I mentioned with removing those sweets, getting yourself away from them. So it's just not front of mind, because there is going to be an emotional aspect to sugar as well. We have the physical, but we also have the mental, emotional. And that's why we need to make it so much easier for ourselves from the mental and emotional side of things by eating tasty foods, and making sure that those like really sugary sweet treats are out of sight, out of mind. Another thing I see people do with keto is use a lot of like keto sweeteners, and that just keeps your sugar cravings really high. So they'll use a lot of like erythritol and stevia, and these aren't necessarily problematic. I mean, we use a really high quality 100% monk fruit extract in our protein powder. But it's just that typically what I've seen with a lot of these like keto treats and stuff, people will still add in a lot, like so much erythritol and stevia that is so sweet. It's actually more sweet than like the original form, that it just keeps your tongue desensitized to that sweet flavor. And that can make it so, again, you just need more and more sweet flavor in order for your tongue to get the same level of satisfaction. So it could be a couple of those different things. But again, highly recommend checking out the Body Recomp program. 7-Day Detox is a great place to start, especially if you have sugar cravings. And then from there, the Body Recomp program, which is a 6-week program, would be perfect for you to get into. Okay. Oh, thank you so much. Wait, oops, I keep missing some. Autumn, you always have a way of being such an encouragement. Just that quick. I can't wait to do the detox this week. Your recipes are the best. Smoothie addict here. Oh, thank you so much. Diana, I've heard that there are dangers of eating too much protein, 90 grams plus. What are your thoughts? Specifically about heart health, I've never seen anything talked about for heart health purposes, unless you're talking about like maybe people say animal proteins, which there's actually been so much research coming out showing that there is not an association that they're actually finding anymore with cardiovascular disease risk in red meat. But from the kidney health perspective, it's the same thing. Eating more protein does not cause kidney disease. However, when you already have kidney disease, which is usually caused by something like insulin resistance, which ironically is typically caused by eating too much sugar, it's often recommended to not have as high of protein because the kidneys are already damaged. So it's not the protein that causes it. In fact, there's actually been research showing that eating more protein can be protective of the kidneys, but it's just something that your doctor might recommend if your kidneys are already damaged from other issues. But 90 grams is not even like, I don't even think most people consider that eating higher protein. That's really not super high protein. But yeah, I've done quite a few videos on protein and like protein myths. If you go onto my channel and type like Autumn Bates, or like they have a little search function, at least on desktop, where you can search within a channel and just type like protein and check out all my videos on that. I address a lot of these common myths, but those are the like most common ones I've seen, especially around kidney disease. It's a misunderstanding that I think maybe the like health community has done, like the health experts rather, has done a disservice for like the regular community at large of not conveying that message properly, where it's definitely not the protein itself that causes kidney disease. In fact, it can be protected because it can really help to stabilize blood sugar levels, which is very important for helping to prevent kidney disease in the first place. But again, if your kidneys are already damaged, that's when a doctor might and not even always recommend eating less protein, purely because the kidneys help filter it out. Okay. Susie, is bread not allowed at all, even homemade sourdough? You know, sourdough, especially homemade sourdough, is actually much more blood sugar stabilizing, but I think this is going to depend on individual basis. If you find, especially if it's homemade sourdough and whole wheat sourdough, if it's like if you're making it from white type of flour, like more refined flour, then I would say leave that for after the 7-day detox, because regardless, white flour is going to have a higher glycemic load. However, if you are making like homemade sourdough, where it is that slow fermentation and it's from whole wheat, where it's going to actually have nutritional value and it's going to be even lower glycemic load, and if you aren't already insulin resistant, then that could be something you could implement in. But again, it's a lot of like ifs, like if you already have all of those things lined up. But if not, it's just 7 days. So it's something that you can do for 7 days, reset, and even to see how you feel and see how your body responds without having it. Ben, what do you think of drinking green tea or lemon and ginger tea? First of all, I have lemon and ginger tea every single night. I talked a lot in this live stream about the importance of gut health during the detox process and making sure that we can have our GI tract actually moving smoothly. Ginger is one of the best things that you can have in order to help speed this along. It's because ginger helps to stimulate the migrating motor complex, which is something that helps to actually stimulate a bowel movement. So lemon ginger tea 2 really big thumbs up, as long as there's no added sugar in it and you're just having like boiled lemon and ginger. For green tea, yeah, green tea is a really rich source of antioxidants. It's actually one of the foods in the detox promoting foods that I mentioned in the 7-day detox. So, highly recommend if you haven't already, if you're starting the detox today, make sure that you actually read through the program. It's not a super long program. You can easily read through it like during your lunch break. And just make sure that you know and understand the foods that are going to best support you during this time, because green tea is mentioned in there, and that is something that is very detox promoting. And know the foods that are not going to be supportive of you over the next 7 days. All right, can you reset a low basal metabolic rate? I'm a chronic undereater, and as I get older, I'm having trouble losing weight. Yeah, you can. A big thing, the biggest factor really that is going to contribute to a lower BMR or basal metabolic rate is your muscle mass. Typically, from eating and under eating for a long time, your muscles are probably have depleted a lot over the years. That's what causes the metabolism to keep slowing down more and more. This is why typical calorie restriction doesn't work over the long term, because it results in a lot of muscle loss. And that makes it so that your metabolism really slows down. And eventually you just keep eating less and less and less in order to even maintain that weight loss. That is just not sustainable. You do need to eat for your overall health to get nutrients in as well. So just chronically under eating is not obviously the long-term solution. This is where incorporating strength training or resistance training, having a structured program is really one of the biggest, most important tools to add into your routine in order to help raise the BMR again, because again, it's increasing muscle that causes you to have that increased basal metabolic rate. But I will say, I know a lot of people get freaked out when I talk about increasing muscle mass. They think it means like getting really bulky. By no means at all. Like if you guys checked out my postpartum 20-pound weight loss journey from 2023, I actually did increase my muscle during the weight loss process. And if you look at like my body composition afterward versus before I had even gotten pregnant, my body composition looked significantly better after I had actually increased a little bit of muscle by like a few pounds versus when I had less muscle. So it's not like we're talking about being Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like you don't have to have massive muscle mass, but we're talking about just adding a little bit of quality muscle to you to make it so that you can have that metabolic flexibility again. So in terms of like something actionable, either if you have no idea where to start, even just a couple of sessions with a personal trainer could be really useful. If you have no background history of training, that might be something that you want to look into. There are some good programs online that are more strength focused, that are more progressive training focused. So like for an app, there's a Sweat app. That's a pretty good app. There's also the MAPS programs are good. So it's just check out all your different options and make sure that you're actually incorporating some type of structured resistance training. More isn't always better. You want a good balance. Typically, it's anywhere between 2 to 4 days per week of resistance training for that. And then make sure you're actually eating to support your goals. So again, we're not even talking about the body recomp program right now, but this is where using the body recomposition program, which is that 6-week program I mentioned earlier, actually uses the nutritional tools to support body recomposition, which is where you're losing fat while keeping or even increasing muscle. So you need to have both the exercise as well as the actual nutritional tools to support that. If you have one, but you don't have the other, regardless of which one it is, you're not going to see the results you're looking for. So make sure you have a good program from a strength training or resistance training perspective, and then also a nutritional program. So we have the 6-week body recomp program. I think you can even just check it, like, you don't even have to go onto my website. I think if you just look at like below the YouTube video right here, I think it has like Autumn's shop or something. Not super familiar, but I think the body recomp program should be listed right below too. And that's, again, would be a great resource for you. Okay, Adriana, what do you think of sugar-free coffee syrups? They claim to be sugar-free. So it's the same issue as I mentioned earlier with the keto treats, that they still taste really sweet. And it's not necessarily like, yes, the sugar is an issue from a liver detox perspective, but if you also want to make sure you're getting the benefits of not consistently craving sugar and making it an uphill battle for yourself, where every time like you like are passing like, I don't know, a cookie shop or donut shop or something, you need to have it. having these really sweet flavors, even if they technically don't have sugar, can still make it so that you're going to have high sugar cravings all the time. So the goal is to make it so you don't have to have that uphill battle. You just reset those taste buds, and it happens really fast. It's like within the first 3 to 5 days for most people. And that way you don't even crave those sugars. And again, it's not an uphill battle for you. So it's not something that I would ever really recommend. Unless it was just, yeah, even the word syrup that implies like it probably is something that's going to be really, really hyper sweet. So it's not something I would recommend. Hi, Guylen. Thank you, Autumn, for all the valuable info and tips you provide. You're so welcome. So good to see you in the chat. Okay, I'm seeing some repeat questions. I want to answer a couple new ones. Okay, such a good question. Okay, so how soon after starting should weight loss be seen? I'm implementing a lot of these tips and not seeing major results on the scale, but I do feel different. Should I do more or just wait? This is such a great question because this goes back to what we are just talking about with body recomposition. The tools I talk about on my channel are 100% focused on that. It's focused on making sure that the vast majority, if not all of the weight loss that you achieve is going to be from fat and not muscle. That way you're going to have more sustainable long-term results. Something that can weirdly happen during this time, especially if you are used to more of like traditional calorie counting and restriction for a weight loss protocol, is that you can actually see significant body recomposition changes where maybe your clothes are fitting different, you feel a lot better, but you aren't seeing a change in the scale. And that's because the body is prioritizing burning fat. You're losing the actual pounds of fat, but you're either maintaining or increasing muscle mass. So this like scale, this like change in how your body is, how your body composition is rather, can cause a net zero change on the scale. This is why I do not recommend using a traditional scale, because it can really mess with your mind and make you think that you're not making the progress that you actually are, and seeing actually way better progress than you would have if the scale actually did just suddenly drop 10 pounds and most of it was from muscle. So instead, some really great tools that I recommend using is either just like a standard tape measure, like literally a tape measure, like the old school way that people would actually keep track of progress. That actually is going to give you a better indicator of how your body is changing, because fat takes up more physical space, like per pound, than muscle. Muscle is a lot more dense. So as you lose body fat, that's where you will see inches going down, even if muscle mass is increasing. The other is using something like an in-body scale. So a lot of gyms now, even health food stores, different like wellness practices, a lot of places have it now. And it's one of my favorite tools for keeping track of body recomposition, because it actually shows you how many pounds of body fat and muscle mass that you're losing or gaining. So that's where you can actually see those changes, and it can give you more accurate data, so you can really know like, okay, am I making progress? Do I need to actually make some changes? Or am I like actually, yeah, you get what I'm trying to say. Am I actually making the progress, or am I not? Do I actually need to make some changes? It'll actually give you that much more accurate data of what's going on. So yeah, scale, I never recommend using. It's just not very accurate at all. Oh, thank you. Hi, Autumn. Congrats on your pregnancy. I guess you're looking forward to being a mom again. Yes, I'm actually 33 and a half weeks pregnant right now. Hence, like you might have noticed a little bit of like labored breathing. Baby's sitting up here now, so like it can only take in so much air. All right, Robin, I finished the 7-day detox. I started the intermittent fasting program and got a virus on day 2. I am so sorry. There's been so much going on. That sucks. I've gotten sick quite a few times this winter too. I stopped the program to get better. Should I detox again or just go back to your IF program? Unless you ate a lot of sugar during that time, then you should be able to just dive straight back into it. The big benefit of doing the 7-day detox first is it helps to reset your taste buds and make that transition a lot easier to intermittent fasting. But if you didn't eat a lot of sugar when you were sick, then you can just go straight back to that 21-day IF program. But I'm glad you're feeling better. All right, another good question. Connie, I'm 50-ish and recently started 16/8 intermittent fasting with a long way to get to my health goal over 50 pounds. Would you recommend starting with the 21-day IF or body recomp after detox? By the way, I heart your protein powders. Oh, thank you. It's a good question. So you currently are using 16/8 intermittent fasting and you're doing the 7-day detox. Really, you could, it just depends on what you want to focus on first. Intermittent fasting has its own different types of benefits, and that's why it's a whole separate program. Both can result in weight loss, or rather fat loss and body recomposition with the body recomp program or the 21-day intermittent fasting program. So it just kind of depends on which you want to focus on first. If you feel like since you're already starting with the 16/8 intermittent fasting, it might actually be a good idea for you to continue on with the 21-day intermittent fasting program, because I would hate for you to not have the proper tools of intermittent fasting and not see the benefit, because there are a lot of ways to do intermittent fasting wrong and a lot of ways to make it so that you can stall your progress or not see results. So in thinking about it, the 21-day program might be a better place to start. Plus, it's only 3 weeks. And so that way you can do the 3 weeks and then move on once you have that baseline of, okay, I understand how to use the intermittent fasting protocols, how to tailor to my goals, how to eat according to intermittent fasting. Now I can layer on these additional strategies of body recomp. So that might be a good route for you since you already are using the 16/8. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Stay off the scale, please. I know it can be so crazy to hear that for like not using the scale as a way of tracking your progress, but just trust me, it is not accurate. It does not show you what's actually going on with your body, and you can very easily get derailed when you use a traditional scale. And it can really lead to a lot of the thing that I especially don't like about using a traditional scale is that it just makes it so that you're more likely to fall back into old restrictive type of dietary patterns in order to achieve a goal. And clearly, like using those restrictive patterns of just counting calories is not sustainable. It is not something that works long term. And so just going back to the scale is not really for most people conducive of actually achieving long-term results. Mm. Oh, thank you, Adriana. I love your personalized FedEx envelopes. That's so cute. Thank you so much. All right, guys, I need to go take a breather. Like I mentioned, I'm 33 and a half weeks pregnant, and like this baby is just kicking right up into my lungs. So I'm super excited for all you guys doing the 7-day detox this week. I'm actually following the detox protocol as well, making sure I'm eating enough, of course, to support pregnancy, but making sure that I'm not having those added sugars because, like I mentioned last week, I did have some, and my face like broke out so badly, especially with pregnancy. I'm like so like affected by sugar. So I'm excited to actually be feeling really good again with eliminating the sugars and adding those foods in to make me feel great. And I'm super excited for all you guys. So water cheers, coffee cheers, green tea cheers, whatever you're having right now or later today, or sparkling water cheers, and have a great rest of